Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope your weekend was just outstanding and you have returned roaring and ready to go. We got some great business to attend to today. Quick preview, then we'll zoom in for further detail. But a big one, obviously, was what was cooking at the White House today. We had Zelensky. Come on down and wait until you see what this dude was wearing today. Ooh, we got a nice little victory. Trump knew it was coming too. Okay, so we're going to go through this little play-by-play of Zelensky coming out. Trump's like, here it comes. Watch this. He's going to step out of that car and then we'll get a preview. All right, we'll come back on that little tease there. So we got Zelensky. Oh, there it is. All right, he was in the Oval Office today and we'll see what he had to say. Ducey was asking some pretty good questions of him and a bunch of reactions on this. We've got some poll numbers. We've got the conversation back and forth about whether American troops are going to be a part of the security guarantee. But then there were some great clips here of the aftermath of the meetings where we saw this conversation, people saying Trump has finally broken the barricade, the deadlock with Putin, and we're seeing some solutions come. And this was another interesting clip. This was an off mic comment. Okay, so they kicked the press out and they're all just yapping away. And the mic picked it up. And so we'll listen to that because the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia, she was talking to Trump a little bit. So we'll talk about that. All that coming up in our first segment to get the roundup on Ukraine. So then after that, we'll talk about this Israeli flag lawsuit, which is a very curious one that came down that we're now reviewing. We see that from the Times of Israel, they're very happy about this federal court ruling. They sued in the District of Columbia. Kimara Sumral sued Janine Ali. And of course, it's about Israel, Gaza, that whole thing. And so we'll go through it because the judge just issued an order now that's catching attention. It's actually an order from earlier that's now catching attention because the group is celebrating. The group who was behind this lawsuit is called the National Jewish Advocacy Center. And they're celebrating that this is good precedent because now the Israeli flag is basically equivalent to Jewish identity, and you can't be discriminatory against a Jewish person, obviously. So therefore, you can't be discriminatory against the flag because the flag is an extension of the Jewish person, right? So we're trying to kind of equate those things, and a lot of people asking themselves, wait a minute, what about the American flag or any other flags? So we'll go through the order. We'll see what the judge actually said because there's a lot of people saying it's illegal to burn the American flag. Oh, I'm sorry, the Jewish flag now, but not the American flag. And we'll see what the judge ultimately says about it, because obviously this is a pretty precarious issue here. We've got, a lot of questions about flag burning in this country anyways. So we'll go through it. We'll see what the judge said. We'll get some thoughts on this. We talked about this one this morning on the members only stream. This Israeli cyber director person called Tom Alexandrovich was arrested in Las Vegas and then fled to Israel. And we went through the court case this morning on the members only stream. We'll have a segment on that out later. But that was an interesting one. He's got an actual court case. He's got a follow-up ticker court date for August 27th. And they'll decide whether or not a criminal complaint gets filed against him. But we'll see if he's the only one of 7 who is not charged or what happens to that case there. So we'll have a little update on that. And then we'll hear from this one from Lindsey Graham. This maniac psychopath was out giving a ridiculous speech in South Carolina. And since we're talking a little Israel stuff today, we'll talk about that one. Now, after that, we talk Bill Barr coming up because Bill Barr was in Congress today, walking his way down the hall, getting asked questions about the old Epstein stuff. So I got some thoughts on and reaction to that. We have James Comer was out with a couple of clips. We got Byron Donalds, who was also out talking about this. Ed Martin is saying, we are coming after you punks who were responsible for the coup. And so a bunch, including this document drop today, which was a very interesting one. I'll just repost this right now so you can grab those docs if you want them. But we got these 3 mega dumps of documents. Okay, this is 301 pages. We'll hit the highlights. We got this one's 266 pages about media leaks. We'll hit the highlights. And we'll see what's going on with this document, which was also released, 383 pages. And so the House Oversight Committee is now releasing those things. We'll see what is inside. Byron Donalds coming up, and updates about Robert Mueller. Apparently, he's not getting a subpoena because he's brain dead or something. So we've got a great stream planned ahead, my friends, and I'm very glad you're here. Thanks for subscribing to our channel if you haven't already done so, and thanks for considering becoming a member. We have great members-only streams in the morning, shows on Saturday, after parties. We have an amazing members-only community. We'd love to have you join us. Great way to support the show and grab some extra content on the day. Now, without any further ado, let's zoom in, shall we? Because we've got a major update. And here it is. Zelensky returns to the White House. And now he's dressed a little bit differently. A lot of people speculating on how this whole thing was going to go and contemplating, what if he does dress up? Is that bending the knee to dictator Trump? Or should he continue to wear the t-shirt when he comes into the Oval Office? Well, today was the day. We were all waiting for it. President Trump was waiting for it, and he knew as Zelenskyy's car pulled up, a little bit of doubt in the face of the president, as you can see. He says, I don't know. Is he going to be wearing that gym shirt or what? And we didn't really know. But then Trump, of course, a man of optimism, says as Zelenskyy pulls up, we've got this, baby. Fight, fight, fight for respect and clothing. And so, of course, the fist pump comes out. The door is about to be opened by the Marine. And boom, out steps Zelenskyy. But before he does, look at Trump. Look at Trump's mouth there. He says, whoa, Zelenskyy, you look great. And of course, Zelenskyy comes walking out, and Zelenskyy knows he looks great. Look how happy and proud he is. So Trump's very excited. Zelenskyy comes out, shakes hands, and he, look at him. Look at you. This is outstanding. Zelenskyy, wow, absolutely amazing attire. Zelenskyy's laughing his butt off. Okay, we'll do slow-mo first. We'll watch it in real time. Zelenskyy's laughing his butt off. He's like, you know, Mr. President, you were right. I feel great. I just feel fabulous. I feel like, you know, I've got my life together. I actually have a plan for myself now. I have some self-respect. He's very happy about it. He starts laughing. They're laughing it off. And then they call it a day and walk back into the White House. All right. So thanks for indulging me on that. Let's watch it in real speed now.
The best I have.
Pretty face.
President Trump, showing your message to the people of Ukraine.
Peace at last.
We love them. We love them.
Russia continues attacks in Ukraine, defending Kharkiv.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Looking good. Not too bad, Zelenskyy. And so finally, you can see we're making some progress on this issue. Now, Zelenskyy was a good sport about it today, and this was a fun quip. He said, in response to a journalist who was asking him about this, the old journalist, you remember the journalist, the last time Zelenskyy was in there, he says, why are you in our Oval Office dressing like a bum? We're trying to save the planet and stop the war, and you come in here totally disrespectful. Everyone else is wearing a collared shirt, and the whole thing went off the rail. That same guy was back, and he had the same reaction we did. Hey, Zelenskyy, looking good.
President Zelenskyy, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on
I
you.
said to the one that attacked you last time. See, now he's
I remember that.
I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelenskyy.
And in the same suit. You see, I changed you out.
Maybe yours is much better. President Zelenskyy.
That was a good quip. Well done, Zelenskyy. I'm in a different suit, but you're in the same suit. How come I changed, but you didn't? Hilarious. So well done. And of course, you could hear the whole crowd, you know, kind of crack up. They're all cracking up. It's good. That's much better than screaming at each other and wanting to perpetuate a war, driving us all to World War III with the risk of nuclear annihilation. Nuclear annihilation. Turn into George Bush. All right, so here is another clip, right? All that's fun and games, you know, but collar shirts are serious business. And, you know, we are advocates of the polo revolution here. Let's not mix our words here. But here's Zelenskyy now answering some serious questions. What are we going to do? And this came out from Ducey. Ducey came out with a pretty pointed questions. Like, are you, like, enough already, Zelenskyy? What are we going to be doing here? If we keep going, there's going to be more deaths. Are you willing to give up some land in exchange for that? What is the end game, Zelensky?
And to that point, President Zelensky, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support American and European partners. And we will do our best for this. So, and I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, personally of President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
All right, so not a lot of details, not a lot of specifics on that, but we need support. That's why we're here. And of course, I wouldn't expect any details to come out from anybody on any sides, because this is an open, ongoing negotiation. So you have to kind of keep the cards close to the chest in this stage. Now, we also had more. Here was the family photo from everybody who was there today. It was a wild scene. I mean, regardless of what you think about the policy or what's happening, I mean, this is, history in the making right now. Everybody's coming over to see what they can do to solve this thing, and Trump is leading the way on bringing them together.
Not a good day. That was not a great day.
Talking about Butler.
Is everything okay? You all set? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The French president with his hand in his pocket for the family photo. Look at that. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. What do you do with your hands? Do you hide your hands? Is he trying to be hip? What's he doing? All right. Who knows? He's French. All right. So we've got that today. We also had a couple of great clips on this. After the meeting, they did announce or intimated that there's going to be trilateral talks, a trilateral meeting between the three hombres, Zelensky, Putin, and President Trump himself.
I spoke indirectly with President Putin today. We're going to call President Putin right after this meeting. I'm sure we're going to have a solid meeting, good meeting, maybe a great meeting, and we're going to try and work out a trilat after that and see if we can get it finished, put this to sleep, because this is not since the Second World War has there been anything like this. So I'm honored to welcome NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who's a great gentleman, great political leader in Europe.
All right, the meeting goes on. So sounds like some good news and some good developments. Now, people paying extra close attention to this one, because once you get into the specifics, people are asking themselves, or asking the question, which I think is an important one, what is the security guarantee exactly? What does that involve from the American end? Are we putting troops over there? Are we kind of doing a kind of NATO, but not NATO, like separate treaty? What are the details? Of course, we all want to know. We're not there yet, but here's what Trump said when asked about it.
Your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you roll that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved. Yes.
All right, so we'll be involved. Who knows exactly what that means, but time will tell. And so a couple final clips here. We see this is one of the world leaders saying that Trump has broken a deadlock on this.
I really want to thank you, President of the United States, dear Donald, for the fact that you, as I said before, broke the deadlock basically with President Putin by starting that dialogue. And I think it was in February that you had the first phone call, and from there we are now where we are today. And that is, I think, if we play this well, we could end this. And we have to end this. We have to stop the killing. We have to stop the destruction of Ukraine's infrastructure. It is a terrible war. So I'm really excited. And let's make the best out of today and make sure that from today onwards, we get this thing to an end as soon as possible. I really want to thank you for your leadership, what you are doing for Volodymyr, but of course also all the European colleagues. It is really crucial. And the fact that you have said, I'm willing to participate in the security guarantees is a big step. It's really a breakthrough, and it makes all the difference. So also thank you for that. I really want to thank you.
Okay, so you can see, man, full house there. You saw the entire crew back there: Hegseth, Wiles, Witkoff, Bessent, Rubio, and J.D. Vance, all in the house, flanking the president as the conversation unfolded. Now, after the conversation was over, this was caught on a hot mic, and this was a very interesting one.
That's all we ask for, is fairness with the media. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for being so fair.
Thank you, Donald. You go through this every day.
All the time.
But he loves it. He loves it. For he does it always. I never want to speak with my friend.
He's a very good player, golfer, you know.
Yeah, I know.
He went to college.
But he says you always.
All right, amazing to hear that behind the scenes. This guy says, you go through this every day? Are you kidding me? This is crazy. Your press comes in here and screams at you like this every day? Yeah, not a big deal. Italy says, well, he loves it. Mamma mia, no big deal. And I think to an extent, Trump does love it. And I have to be honest, I love that part of our American system, that we have a very aggressive press. I wish that our press was a little bit more honest and wasn't key participants in multiple election coup attempts and rigging attempts and successful attempts. We want an honest press, but we do appreciate that the press has an active right embodied in the First Amendment, freedom to go and petition your government and freedom to write about your government and hold them accountable. So we appreciate that. Maybe Europe would be a little bit more free if they brought back some more freedoms of the press, and the press could, I guess, ask real questions instead of questions only about climate change. So we've got some good news on that today. Hopefully it's the start of something big and they get this solved in the near future, but we'll keep our eye on it. And I got to say, Zelenskyy is looking good. And if we can make peace on wardrobes, why can't we make peace on war? All right, so let's carry on. We've got some other serious business to attend to. And not that that wasn't serious business. The wardrobe thing is what I'm talking about. All right, so you get the point. Now, this is another very, very curious one. Precedent being established on the Israeli flag. Is that what's happening right here? We got a case to dig into, because this legal group is now hailing this as a breakthrough. They're saying that a federal judge in the United States is equating the Israeli flag with Jewish identity. And people are starting to say, well, wait a minute. Does that mean that you can't criticize or burn, for example, the Israeli flag if that's discriminatory? Or what are the overlaps here between this judge's decision and free speech rights in America? Now, we'll go through this, but the organization that brought this lawsuit is this organization. It's called the National Jewish Advocacy Center. And they file a lot of lawsuits on behalf of, I think, Jewish people, leverages experience, expertise, and our nation's legal system to combat the rising epidemic of anti-Semitic activity. And we ask ourselves, of course, what is the difference, or what is the line between free speech and anti-Semitic activity, and how does it work in practice? So the judge is going to walk us through this, and we'll parse through it, because you can imagine there's some spicy meatballs in here. But here's more about the organization. Now, the National Jewish Advocacy Center offers legal and policy support to Jewish people in the U.S. The guy who founded it is called Mark Goldfeder. And after 10/7, the NJAC sued several American organizations that it says aided Hamas on behalf of the victims of the attack. They sued the AP, they sued the AJP Educational Foundation, they sued the National Students for Justice in Palestine, and they've also sued this person, Janine Ali, right here. We're going to go through the complaint. We'll see what the judge ruled on this, because this came down out of the District of Columbia from a judge called Trevor McFadden, granting their injunctive request. And so we'll go back through that. But this organization is a legal and public policy group. The center says that to end the history of persecution and the need for formal defense, we must ensure that the Jewish narrative shifts from defensive to inspirational. Now, the organization works with state legislatures to pass what it calls challenge-proof bills that align the First Amendment to fight anti-Semitism. What? On college campuses and elsewhere. The organization uses the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism to modify our First Amendment challenge-proof bills that just align the First Amendment? What? The center provides courses for lawyers around the country on how to fight anti-Semitism. The content includes learning the international law and the law of war with relation to Israel's self-defense. It also collaborates with Christian groups to educate clergy about anti-Semitism. Yeah, we know. So Mark is the CEO, founding editor. He's taught law. The 10/7 attacks happen, and they've been filing a bunch of lawsuits. We've got one queued up right here. But they're celebrating this, and I just caught wind of this because the Times of Israel was posting this story August 14th, referencing a ruling that came out a couple weeks earlier. And they say that a federal court says attacking the Star of David is racial discrimination. It's not political protest, okay? So it's not free speech. You can be sued civilly for that. You can be the subject of a lawsuit and not have First Amendment protections because it's racial discrimination, is the allegation. Setting a legal standard, right, they say, for future cases involving anti-Zionist targeting of Jews, right? Now, here's what they write, Times of Israel. A Jewish legal advocacy group, before we jump into the filings, hailed a legal breakthrough in court battles in America against anti-Semitism after a U.S. federal judge last week equated the Israeli flag with the Jewish race, right? The judge's decision sets a new legal standard that can be used to protect Jews targeted in anti-Zionist attacks, said this organization, the National Jewish Advocacy Center. Pro-Israel Jewish activist, her name was Kamara Sumrall. She filed the lawsuit, we'll read. Sumrall alleged that she was attacked at a pro-Israel demonstration, which is already illegal, right? You can already sue somebody for that. And charge somebody with a crime for that, right? For attacking you. An anti-Israel activist at the protest approached this woman, yanked on her flag, and choked her. Okay, so that's a problem, right? That's illegal. A police officer arrested her, witnessed the incident, and arrested her. Okay, so she got charged with assaulting somebody, just like anybody else. Okay, pretty standard. The anti-Israel protest was organized by Code Pink, a far-left activist group that demonstrates against Israel. And so both the assailant and the pro-Israel activist regularly attended dueling protests in the Capitol. Sumrall said that she's got death threats. Now, the lawsuit said that the assault was discriminatory, right? So it's a little different than just an assault case. The lawsuit, like others filed by Jewish Israel supporters around the U.S., say that Zionism is a facet of the faith, and it's not a political position. The advocates have used the interpretation of Zionism to protect pro-Israel Jews and to combat anti-Zionism under U.S. civil rights protections that cover religion, race, and national origin, but not politics, okay? So trying to shove your criticism of Israel or the Israeli flag into the other civil rights protections, okay? Religion, race, and national origin. So you can't talk about those things because it's inherent with the Jewish race. The argument has been widely used in cases involving the Civil Rights Act, which bars discrimination in programs that receive financial assistance in places like universities. The lawsuit said Sumrall had been targeted in the attack due to her race, right? So it's not that she is advocating on behalf of Israel and people have some questions about what Israel is doing. It's that she's just a racist, bigoted person saying she's attacking her religion and national origin. which means now you can sue under those provisions and get a restraining order and seek damages. Okay, so sort of this Jewish lawfare group is now compounding and compiling these lawsuits and then suing. In this case, we're going to see this person individually for money damages, calling it a racist thing. Lawyers for the defendant argued that she had been acquitted of the assault charges in criminal court. Wow. The defense said that the defendant's keffiyeh had tangled with her flag when the two bumped into each other at the protest, and there was no malicious contact between the two anyways. The legal team also argued that the lawsuit was conflating honest and widespread criticism of Israel's policies in Palestine with anti-Jewish hate, and this incident was not discriminatory. It's about Israel. The restraining order would prevent the alleged assailant from attending protests, so she can't even go there, they say. We're going to look at the order because I want to be very clear. I want to see what the order says exactly. Saying she can't go back and protest? What? Violating her First Amendment rights since both women attend the same events on opposing sides. So one side can go, the other side cannot, because one side sued and got an injunction against the other person from showing up, right? And it sounds like the assault claim was thrown out. She was found not guilty of that. The judge in the case, District Judge Trevor McFadden, sided with Sumrall in a civil case, saying that the defendant purposely discriminated against her on the basis of race, right? Not Israel, race. And that she had likely committed battery, citing testimony from the police officer. The officer had declined to testify in criminal court, where assault needs to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, a higher bar than a civil offense. Wow. The officer didn't testify? That's crazy. In trial, he declined to testify? That's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. So since they were unsuccessful there, they just sued in a civil court, and they just said, well, this is racially discriminatory, so now you have to stop her. The battery, the judge wrote, we'll read it. Now, the defendant did not have reason to think that she was affiliated with the government. Instead, she was attacking her because she's a Jewish person. We got it. So the lawsuit also made use of a novel use of an obscure federal legal provision dating back to the Civil War era aimed at combating racial discrimination. The provision, first enacted in the Civil Rights Act, guarantees equal rights for all racial groups, and Jews have been recognized by the Supreme Court as a race for purposes involving civil rights laws. And so the provision elevates racially motivated assault from the state court to the federal court. Code Pink are the people who are being sued on this. They decried the decision. They said this lawsuit, saying that criticism of Israel's government and his flag, which is a political symbol currently responsible for mass civilian deaths, calling that anti-Semitism, this is false conflation, and it seeks to criminalize political speech. Even though many critics of Israel's policies are themselves Jewish, it is an effort to erase the critical distinction between opposing a government's actions and attacking a religion. So now this person is being sued. Some of the tactics deployed by these Jewish groups, including the National Jewish Advocacy Center, include suing nonprofits that facilitate illegal protest, using a law meant to protect abortion clinics to cover synagogues, and expanding civil rights protections for Jews to new areas such as sports venues, and apparently much of it in an attempt to properly align the First Amendment, which isn't good enough for them. So they have to change it to better suit their endgame. So what we're seeing is just lawfare from Jewish law groups trying to gain an advantage in the courts, and they're winning. You can see here, the District of Columbia, this was the verified complaint, so we'll just hit the highlights on this. But here's what they said originally. Plaintiff Kimera Sumrall now sues for violations of her civil rights and common law battery, trespass to chattel, intentional infliction of emotional distress, wants damages because these two people were protesting and the other person was not even found guilty of anything. Plaintiff seeks to recover monetary damages, attorney's fees, and injunctive relief, saying, here's what the background. Now, Plaintiff Kimera Sumrall is a Jewish resident of D.C. who was physically attacked, they say, this is their complaint. This is not a prosecutor. This is Kimera Sumrall's lawyers, and her lawyers, of course, are with the Jewish advocacy group suing. And they tell us the following. She was physically attacked. She was charged and apparently acquitted. The officer didn't even testify. Defendant Janine Ally is a natural person who physically attacked plaintiff. So here's the background. So the Jewish person who feels and publicly expresses a deep affinity for Israel, her ancestral homeland. That's who she is. She identifies Israel as her ultimate place of national origin. Why? And her racial and religious identities as a Jew are ultimately also intimately connected to Israel. Wow, it's like amazing. It's like, why isn't she over there? Plaintiff's connection to Israel is neither idiosyncratic nor can it be chalked up to mere politics, is at the core of what makes her and millions of others Jewish. The Bible itself references this ancient Jewish hope for the return to the Jewish sovereign homeland. Yeah, you can go. From the Jewish law perspective, over half of the biblical commandments that Jewish people are bound to obey, blah, blah, blah. Indeed, the Jewish religion is predicated on God and the chosen people and all the things. And the attack happened. Now, plaintiff attended a small pro-Israel demonstration at the U.S. Capitol. Plaintiff wore an Israeli flag tied to her neck as a cape. The Israeli flag is blue and white, symbolizes a distinctive design of Jewish prayer shawls, and is emblazoned with a large Jewish Star of David, both exclusively associated with Jews. The defendant was also at the Senate building at an anti-Israel demonstration. When the plaintiff, the Jewish person, was isolated from her group, defendant approached her from behind with her adorned Jewish symbology and yanked on her flag, and it briefly choked her and caused her pain and disorientation. Immediately thereafter, which is inappropriate, right? Like, if that is true, that is completely inappropriate and a crime. It's assault. You can't do that to somebody. Immediately thereafter, plaintiff witnessed defendant walking away. There were no other persons there beside law enforcement. Plaintiff yelled for the police to come. So a U.S. police officer came over, Reed Bonney. He witnessed the attack. Defendant said to officer, all I did was grab it. And so Officer Bonney arrested the defendant. And that's basically an admission, right? Why'd you grab her flag? You don't need to do that. So defendant did not similarly attack any non-Jewish individuals at the rally. Did she know that she was Jewish just because she has a flag on? Is that like clear indicator that she's Jewish because she has the flag, like automatically? Or maybe she's just somebody who supports the Jews. Nor did she attack any individual not wearing items associated with the Jewish race, religion, and national origin. Okay? So it's not... What about government? What about country? What about nation state? They just forget about all that, right? Because now they're trying to shove this in the civil rights provisions. So defendant's assaults on Sumrall left her feeling unsafe, engaging in peaceful support for the state of Israel and the Jewish people. And so based on the defendant's willingness to commit an assault in plain view, and they've seen each other on about 10 prior occasions, they're all, they're out there just screaming at each other about this stupid stuff that's not our problem. Like, they can just go back to the Middle East and just duke it out over there. Why are they duking it out here in Washington, D.C. for all of us to have to deal with? Plaintiff fears for her physical safety if she were again found in defendant's presence. Plaintiff would like to have the option to safely continue to attend rallies to demonstrate her support for Israel in America, an expression of her race, religion, and national origin, and support for a foreign government, at times wearing an Israeli flag tied around her neck. The anti-Israel rally attended by the defendant was organized by Code Pink. They call it a hate group, and we've got no love for Code Pink here. They've got animus towards Jews. Anti-Jewish racism and associated animus, otherwise known as anti-Semitism, is defined by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance as the following. And I'm pretty sure it was written by Jews, but a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews, it's all, illegal now. So this calls for further examples of what is anti-Semitism. We know it's everything now. You can't do anything. You can't even want like FEMA government money unless you're like in love with Israel, or else they'll cut your funds off. But or that was the old plan. Apparently that's changed. But Code Pink has a history of a bunch of things, anti-Semitism, and they routinely draw comparisons between Israel's efforts. Let's see, is this free speech or is this illegal anti-Semitism that must be banned in America so that the alignment of the First Amendment comports with Jewish protections? Here, as for example, There was an incident egregious enough, it captured the DOJ's attention, and they wrote a statement of interest. And they've been accused of using anti-Semitic and bigoted language in intimidation acts. The violence included the use of bear spray, right? Those are crimes. And media reports shouting things like eliminate Jews and a bunch of bad, nasty things, right? Which are obviously horrific. But you're allowed to say horrific things. We also had another one. This was a spectacle where they dressed up in military fatigues. They put a giant Jewish star on her shirt. Okay, the Code Pink founder, Medea Benjamin, put a giant Jewish star on her shirt and with a fake gun pushed around an almost naked elderly gentleman while yelling at him in a fake Israeli accent. Okay. She was trailed by an elderly woman in a Holocaust-style pajama that said never again. The caption of the video stated, "This is a Holocaust." And it's bizarre, but that's free speech. Code Pink routinely draws comparison. You can't be really naked, I don't think, in DC, but you get the point. You're allowed to do these things. You can slur. They've linked Israel to the California wildfires. They blamed the Jewish state for a domestic disaster. They participated in a conference in Iran, saying that they're not the only activists with the Code Pink hate group, which alone is not probative. And so a bunch of other things that Code Pink has done, which are bad, right? Plaintiff attended a court hearing in support of this rabbi, and they glared furiously and at her and other Jews supporting the rabbi. All right. So there's harassment, man. There's a lot of harassment going on. And now we've got lawsuits flying too. Okay. So battery, trespass to chattel, prayer for relief, and more. What they want is they want compensatory damages. They say that this person has had physical pain, emotional distress, loss of enjoyment. They want punitive damages to punish this person for intentional and malicious conduct. And they want an injunction so that this person cannot be near them, remaining 5 yards away, 100 yards from the home, and other things, signed by the Jewish advocacy group. So that goes in. Then we get the District of Columbia coming out, issuing a 20-page ruling. And here's what this one looks like. This came down from Judge Trevor McFadden. And the important thing, we want to be clear about as we're reading this, and I want to be fair on this, is whether statements like this are true or not. Okay, this came over from Sean King. You know who he is. He was I don't know what race he is. I don't know. But he's not a fan of Israel. Let's just put it at that. But he posts stuff like this. The Israeli flag just became the only national flag illegal to burn in the United States. Yeah, I'm dead serious. And I don't think that's exactly right based on my initial read, but we'll read it again and see if that's ultimately true. But again, the point is that they're saying that this is kind of a stepping stone into much broader civil rights protections that might make that illegal, right? Make that like an attack on race, like, burning crosses or something. So federal courts are saying that this is going to set a legal standard for future cases. And the question is, are we there yet where it's illegal to burn an Israeli flag? I don't think so. But here is what we've got coming down from the judge. Plaintiff Kimarah Sumrall and defendant Janine Ali frequently attend protests about the war in Gaza because they just got nothing better to do than to cause a ruckus in our country. The problem is that they're on opposite sides. Last fall, Sumrall proudly displayed her Jewish heritage at a protest. She tied an Israeli flag around her neck, writes the judge. She alleges that Ali approached her from behind and yanked it, choking her. Now, they write, if speech provokes wrongful acts on the part of the hecklers, then the government must deal with those wrongful acts directly, right? You punish the acts, not the speech. Sumrall asked for a modest stay-away order against Ali so that she feels comfortable continuing to attend the pro-Israel protest and counter-protest, and the court grants her request. And so what is the extent of the request? We'll find out. On November 13th, here's what happened. 2024, they were on opposing sides of a protest about the war in Gaza. An advocacy group called Code Pink planned to lobby in favor of the Palestinian causes in the Dirksen Senate building that day, committing an insurrection. Code Pink invited Ali to join. Now, the group's members gathered in their characteristic pink attire in the Senate cafeteria. As they assembled, Sumrall arrived to attend a pro-Israel protest that had been organized in response to the Code Pink demonstration. Okay, so the Code Pinkers were there first. Then they came in response. She wore an Israeli flag as a cape tied at her neck with a nylon twine. Several U.S. Capitol Police officers were also present. Now, the parties agree, at least, about the actors' basic movements before the incident. Sumrall was the first in the cafeteria, standing at the top of the crowd, ramped with the officers. She was talking on her phone, this Jewish woman. Ali was running late to meet her protest group, so she walked alone towards the ramp to meet him. Now, Capitol Police Officer Reed Bonney was standing nearby, about 5 to 8 feet away, facing the Jewish woman, Sumrall. Ali passed close behind Sumrall on the ramp. Now, this is where the agreement ends, right? So they say she's just walking by, the other lady's on the ramp, she's got the Israeli flag hanging off the back. Here's the story. Officer Bonney testified in the criminal trial, so he did testify, that he saw Ali walk behind Sumrall and grab an Israeli flag that the victim had wrapped around her neck. So he did testify. He added before this court that he could see most of Ali's body from the vantage point in front of Sumrall. Specifically, he could see her right hand, which was empty, as it grabbed the flag and yanked it downward. He described the interaction as a simple assault. It was not accidental, right? Yeah, can't do that to somebody. Kimrall reported feeling someone yank her flag behind, jerk her back, choking her, though she could not see who did it. So she said she looked around to see only police officers and Ali walking away. Officer Bonney said that Kimrall had an immediate clear reaction, yelling for the police to arrest Ali. Now, Ali claims she did nothing wrong. It would have been impossible, she says, because she was holding her phone in her right hand, the one closer to Sumrall, after calling her group to meet them. Plus, a disability prevents her from using all of her fingers, so she could not have grabbed the flag while holding the phone. And her left hand was similarly occupied with her purse. Now, a relative of a Code Pink demonstrator testified that she saw no contact between the two women as Ali passed on the ramp. Defense argues that either Sumrall stepped back on her own flag or Ali's shawl, called a keffiyeh, entangled with the flag accidentally. Oh, man. So is the keffiyeh going to be a symbol, too, of the Palestinian people? I don't know. What happened next is also disputed. Officer Bonney followed Ali into the Code Pink group and pulled her out to arrest her. He testified that as he was bringing her out of the group, away from the group, she said, "All I did was grab it," okay, which is an admission. Ali claims that she was not wearing her hearing aids that day. So in response to the officer's question about whether she pulled the flag, she responded, "I pulled it?" Officer Bonney clarified, wonder if there's body cam, that he did not ask her a question to elicit a response. He says that she spontaneously spoke as they were walking from her group. Now, so obviously the officer's testimony is going to be a lot more credible than hers. Now, Sumrall says that since the incident, she is feared for her physical safety, the Jewish woman. 10 days after the first hearing in her civil case, she alleges she received a threatening phone call. Sumrall, which is also a crime, threatening and intimidation, can't do that. Sumrall also lives with the threat of future encounters because Ali still participates in the pro-Palestinian protest, and Sumrall would like to attend as a pro-Israel counter-protester as well. It's like, oh my gosh, don't you have anything better to do with your lives? You have to come to our country and then scream at each other about your foreign conflicts in order to move our politicians to care and get invested in your foreign conflicts. Sumrall says that the Code Pink rhetoric at these rallies heightens the fear of, and they both like, we have to go fight with each other. For example, in March, she alleges unrebutted that Ali attended a public event where individuals dressed in Israeli flags picked up bloody dollar bills thrown at a costumed Uncle Sam. The parties effectively agree that the two women want to attend the same protest, and they're going to cross paths again. So they sued. Sumrall filed a civil case and got a temporary restraining order. Then the United States filed misdemeanor assault charges. While the stay order was in place, Sumrall did attend at least one event as a pro-Israel protester, while the other lady couldn't come there. She says that she felt comfortable doing so because Ali was not there. Sumrall was indisputably obstreperous towards the host, who testified before this court. Now, a few months later, Ali was acquitted of simple assault after a criminal bench trial, not guilty. Shortly afterward, the state's civil case was scheduled for an evidentiary hearing about whether to extend the civil stay-away order. Sumrall struggled to summon her main witness, Officer Bonney, to testify. So there was another trial that the officer didn't show up to. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Like, an officer is going to show up if a prosecutor is asking them to be there for a prosecutor's trial. Cop's going to be there. So at the criminal case, cop showed up. At the civil case, where the Jewish woman was trying to extend her order of protection, essentially. Cop wouldn't show up there to testify. Now, as a federal officer, he had sovereign immunity to that court subpoena. He didn't waive. She fought a federal subpoena from a different judge, but the judge declined to issue a subpoena to him either. So about 1 week later, right, then she filed a complaint before this court. The court granted the TRO, and here we are. So Sumrall, the Jewish woman, represented that she was going to voluntarily dismiss her case. It has since been dismissed in the injunction case because she's got it over here, basically moved it from there to here, and the judge says that's the background. So now I need to decide what the rules are. And he says she wins. First, and again, we're asking about racial discrimination and how that interplays. Sumrall has carried her burden to receive this injunction. First, she's shown that she's going to win because there is cognizable danger here. Now, before turning to the dispute itself, we have to address Ali's doubts about the court's ability to even hear this case, saying Ali says the court should dismiss the case because the hook for jurisdiction, saying this is a civil rights claim, is pretextual, saying the courts must guard against attempts to sneak state law claims into federal courts through ginned up federal grievances. But beyond this, her claim is exaggerated and specious. They say Ali is given, besides that, they say they've given no reason to question the legitimacy. She says this was racially discriminatory battery, and we have no doubt that she's sincere in invoking federal law. Then they say voluntarily abstain, and basically these are some procedural arguments, right? These are claim precluded. She's already made this case elsewhere, and so she can't bring those claims here. The judge is going to get rid of those and say, here, Sumrall already dismissed the other one, okay? So it's actually not an overlap, and there's no conflict here. And regardless of claim splitting, Ali forfeited that by failing to mention it in her initial brief, and so this case can move forward here. But setting that aside, the court has jurisdiction, and so here's what they write. Sumrall, the Jewish woman, has shown that she's going to win on the merits of her Section 1981 claim. The statute says, all persons within the jurisdiction shall have the same right in every state and territory to make contracts, to sue, to be parties, give evidence, and more, as enjoyed by white citizens. Okay, Section 1981. Now, Congress enacted this statute back in 1866. It was a post-Civil War statute ensuring that newly freed slaves get the same rights as other citizens for the slaves. Now, the provision protects racial minorities from private acts that infringe on their rights to contract, sue, or otherwise enjoy full and equal benefit of the laws. The statute only reaches purposeful discrimination. That was the but-for cause. Without that action, without that discrimination, it wouldn't have occurred. So he's filing this claim, right? It's an old Civil War claim. To make out a claim under Section 1981, you must demonstrate that this person was treated differently than others who were similarly situated, two, because of his race, not because of an Israeli flag, but because of a person's race, which in this case is Jewishness. Now, that discrimination must have affected the individual's full and equal benefit of the law. Now, the DC Circuit uses this test to decide how it works. But we don't discuss this when there's direct evidence of discrimination. Now, the parties in this case contest whether Ali purposely discriminated against Sumrall. Okay, maybe she's just unhappy with Israel, walked up, yanked an Israeli flag because she's unhappy with the Israeli government. That's assault, fine. Is she liable under slave civil rights type laws? And two, whether that action deprived her of all equal benefits of the laws for the security of persons. Now, neither side questions whether Sumrall is part of a racial minority within the meaning of the statute, because the Supreme Court has said Jews are a racial minority. This is a 1987 case that are protected by this. And so the court takes each dispute in turn. First, the Jewish woman Sumrall has sufficiently shown that Ali purposely discriminated against her on the basis of her race, not the flag. A preponderance of evidence says that she committed the battery. So it's, again, this is not a criminal case, so it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's 51% more likely than not. Officer Bonney's testimony described the event in detail. how Ali committed it, that Sumrall reacted strongly, clearly, and immediately. He testified that Ali confessed her behavior as he arrested her, having considered Officer Bondi's demeanor. The court finds him to be highly credible. He was the only neutral witness. And Meredith, who testified for the defense, she supports Code Pink, so his officer's credibility is higher than hers. To credit Ali's version of events, we'd have to assume that both the officer and Sumrall were lying, and they're not. Now, granted, as Ali argues, the Superior Court acquitted Ali of simple assault because the evidence did not rise beyond a reasonable doubt. But this court evaluates this at a lower standard, and that is an interesting one. So I'm sure that was a bench trial, so the judge just acquitted her. After weighing all the evidence before it, the court discredits Ali's evidence that contradicts officer's testimony. So the court says, even though she was acquitted, I find that she committed battery, which was harmful or offensive touching of another. Now, the evidence shows, at minimum, an offensive touching. That is when the yank happens. Okay, so that's a regular claim. You can have that all day. But to be sure, a different outcome may be required after discovery. Based on the evidence currently, I think she'll win. And the battery is direct evidence of discrimination that would not have occurred except for her racial animus. Saying, we're looking at evidence. Purposefully yanking an Israeli flag tied around a Jewish person's neck. Does she know she was Jewish? What if you pull an Israeli flag around a non-Jewish person's neck? Does that matter? To choke them is direct evidence of racial discrimination. How is that direct evidence of that? The Star of David emblazoned upon the Israeli flag symbolizes the Jewish race. Star of David, Encyclopedia Britannica, he's citing, battery involving a racial symbol is strong evidence of racial discrimination. It is more severe, but she was wearing the Israelis' government's flag, right? Not some other flag of Jewish import. It is more severe than racial slurs or statements. And the targeting of the Star of David is as racially motivated as the highly offensive slur, the N-word, which constitutes direct evidence. So Ali has said there's no interpretation, benign interpretation, of choking her, and it's hard to imagine one. Her closest argument is this one, saying, well, the Israeli flag represents the state of Israel rather than the Jewish race, doesn't it? So her action is merely anti-Israel, not anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's pretty obvious defense there that a lot of people share. He doesn't pay much mind to it. But it is quite a stretch to say that yanking on a flag tied around someone's neck is an objection to state policies. Battery is not a legitimate form of protest. Of course not. Well, it's a crime. That's why you charged her with a crime. Now, as Sumrall's counsel stated, now Ali did not have reason to think that Sumrall was affiliated with the Israeli government. No, but she was advocating for their actions, clearly. Rather, it is much more likely that she was intentionally attacking a Jewish person wearing a Jewish flag as a symbol of her racial heritage. And so as Sumrall counsel contended at the preliminary hearing, if yanking on a flag emblazoned with the Star of David tied to a Jewish person's neck at a pro-Israel protest is not discrimination, I don't know what is. And so finally, Ali says that the pleading of a state tort is not enough to show that she was deprived the equal benefit of all laws. What does that mean? But Ali's cited cases don't provide any additional evidence. And so we think that these actions would not have occurred but for racial discrimination. And for these reasons, the court holds that she'll win. And she's also shown that the relief is going to be narrow. All right, so is this judge saying you cannot burn Israeli flags? We'll see. But Sumrall alleges two forms of harm. She says, I have discrimination against me and I have a fear of physical assault. Sometimes courts have determined that being subject to discrimination itself can be irreparable harm. And we already know that Ali is likely engaged in this conduct. She has shown no remorse or taken accountability for this, writes the judge. She was acquitted. The parties agree that Sumrall and Ali will be at the same protest again because they're just going to, just throw food at each other for the rest of their lives. So the discriminatory harm has a high risk of recurrence. The two women will likely again be at close proximity in emotionally charged events. There will likely be racially discriminatory comments, and they're just going to keep going there. So allegations of physical threats have also shown harm. Sumrall is essentially seeking a restraining order and he's going to grant it for her. The entire mosaic of the case includes a battery, and after hearing a threatening phone call and more, and since these events, she's installed additional security cameras on her property, bringing her some peace of mind. So finally, the balance of the equities favor a 3-yard stay-away order. Okay, so here's what we're going to get. Evidence of past physical harm can tip the scales. Here, there's a history of battery, favors an order against Ali. Its narrowness ensures both women can still be present at the same event. Okay, it's like 3 yards away from each other. Oh my gosh. The parties are in violent agreement. They both have First Amendment rights to speak their minds. This 3-yard order will accomplish that. There's no history of Sumrall seeking out Ali, though an order has been in place for a while. The public interest favors an injunction. Sumrall has alleged that her fear of repeated battery is chilling her freedom to express under her First Amendment her support of Israel. The government, right? Are they one and the same? There is no public interest in the promotion of free. There is public interest in promoting free and, unfettered debate. Ali contends that Sumrall's expression has not been chilled. She said, what are you talking about? She's protesting at events at least once since the battery. So it hasn't deterred her at all. There is no irreparable harm. She keeps showing up. So weighing these factors together, the court says, we're going to grant Sumrall, the Jewish woman's motion for an injunction. And here is what it says. The terms of the stay-away order against Janine Ali are as follows. 1, stay at least 3 yards away from Kamara Sumrall. Stay at least 100 yards away from Kamara Sumrall's home and place of employment. Have no contact with her by any means whatsoever. Do not communicate or attempt to communicate either directly or through another person or any other mechanism. And this order is in effect immediately and will remain in place pending further order of this court. So Trevor McFadden, the judge, now equating the Israeli flag with racial discrimination and not spending any time at all on this idea, really, it's like a sentence, on this idea that Israel's flag might represent the Israeli government. And so now the ancient laws passed for slaves in America are being perverted to apply to Jewish people who have flags yanked, who are going to protest on behalf of their foreign country, government, race, whatever, in our state capital. And so from that order, I don't see anything in here that says that it's now illegal to burn the United States or the Israeli flag in the United States. Not yet, but maybe if of course, if they say it's a racially discriminatory attack, you want to burn an Israeli flag, they say that's like the Ku Klux Klan. That's a racial hate crime and you're not allowed to do that. So we'll see if that happens, of course, and what politicians crash themselves like clown cars into this issue so that they can, I guess, continue to allow our flags to be burnt down to a crisp, but other flags not. We'll see what happens with that. But we got to follow up on this story. We covered this morning on a members-only stream. Tom Artyom Alexandrovich has been charged with with a very heinous crime. We looked the case up in the Nevada court records and saw that he was given a court date. He was arrested and given a court date for charges related to soliciting minors. Now, the U.S. State Department in Near Eastern Affairs says that this guy, he did not claim diplomatic immunity, and he was released by a state judge pending a court date. Any claims that the U.S. government intervened are false. And we looked it up this morning, have a whole segment on this coming out, but we had a question about why he was given a $10,000 bond immediately and why he was vacated out of the country when that is one of the indicia for not letting somebody out. Okay. If you can flee the country after you're charged with crimes, especially crimes involving children, and you are going to leave and never come back again, because that's a very heinous crime, they seize your passport. They don't issue bond because you're a flight risk. Okay. It's like one of the first questions and first indicia the judge thinks about. And so we have questions about it. We'll see what happens. 7 other people were charged. We'll see if they get prosecuted and if this guy escapes. But the point is, we've got a lot of pro-Israel support out there. And one person who is sick and tired of, I guess, guys like me who say, well, we actually care about America and the First Amendment and have to think about some of those issues here. Lindsey Graham says he's sick and tired of us.
But tonight, it's late at night, Israel is in a fight for their lives. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people who would kill them all if they could. I am tired of the word genocide. Let me tell you about genocide. If Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could. They have the capability to do that.
Okay, so you just got done telling us that Israel is in a fight for its life and that they can't possibly do anything without the United States' love and all this involvement, and they're such dire position. And then in the very next sentence, except they could kill everybody if they wanted to in a heartbeat and just wipe them all out. Okay, they could. And they're not showing restraint. Or they are showing restraint. So which is it? Are they like on the precipice of losing everything? Or do they have a ton of power that they are exercising as we're watching?
They choose not to. Hamas, they would commit genocide in 30 seconds. They just can't. And that's the big difference, folks. To people in my party, I'm tired of this crap. Israel is our friend. They're the most reliable friend we have in the Mideast. They're a democracy, surrounded by people who would cut their throats if they could. This is not a hard choice if you're an American. It's not a hard choice if you're a Christian. A word of warning. If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us. And we're not going to let that happen.
So Israel's higher priority than the United States in Lindsey Graham's mind. Is that right? So just like Ted Cruz, we have senators who are going to have more priorities for Israel. Ted Cruz said, I'm going to go there and be the greatest defender of Israel the Senate's ever seen. Sounds like Lindsey Graham might be jockeying over him for that one. And we have to support them, because if we don't, we're going to die. God will forsake us because God cares more about Israel than us.
So I just want to end with this thought that President Trump has stood with Israel at the most difficult time since its founding. October the 7th was an effort to destroy the state of Israel, the largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. And here we are almost 2 years later, and Israel's the bad guy. That's ridiculous. Israel is not the bad guy. They're the good guy. The bad guys are the radical Islamists who would kill everybody in this room if they could. So I haven't lost my vision of right and wrong. When it comes to foreign policy, President Trump has stood up for all the right things, and he stood up against wrong things.
All right, Lindsey Graham's sick of anybody who questions the alliance, so-called, with Israel. And we've got a bunch of lawfare happening in our states that are now being launched by various, groups on both sides of the aisle on this thing, this conflict. And all of them are trying to pervert our Constitution with new modifications of what it means and how it works. And we've seen this before, okay? And I'm tired of it across the board, whether it's the trans people or the LGBTQ plus or whatever coming in and trying to modify this to be hate speech or laws that are attacking civil rights, all this thing. Tired of it, okay? We have a Constitution. We have a First Amendment. It says what it says. And any attempts to pervert it from anybody, I don't care what race, what color, what religion, what country that you're from, you're going to get pushback from Americans. And so that's what this is. We'll see what this looks like and whether this does set precedent for saying that you can't criticize the Israeli flag. Of course, we'll keep our eye on it and see. All right, one more update, my friends, and then we'll hear from you, because we got Bill Barr making his way into the House, into Congress for testimony. Bill Barr out on Capitol Hill. You haven't seen him in a while. You remember him, the former attorney general who was in charge when Epstein allegedly eliminated himself. He was in Congress today testifying after receiving subpoenas from the Oversight Committee, and he was the first guy. He got the first date scheduled, and he's the beginning of what will be hopefully many more depositions, ultimately culminating with Clinton, Bill, and Hillary coming in to testify. So here we got some clips and reaction on this. Here's what happen today.
Barr's testimony before the House Oversight Committee is kicking off a series of high-profile closed-door depositions. Those are intended to extend through mid-October, including subpoenas issued for Hillary and Bill Clinton. That's all part of the probe into Epstein's crimes and the Justice Department's handling of that case. Mr. Barr's time as Attorney General spanned Epstein's 2019 arrest, his later death at Metropolitan Correctional Center, which he called appalling, as well as Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest. Now, additionally, tomorrow is the deadline the committee has given for the complete DOJ records on the case. So will that deadline be met?
Well, we're having really good conversations. You have to understand you can imagine how many documents there are. I think that we're going to have I think we'll receive the documents very soon.
So there is bipartisan interest in this case, and some see the interest by Democrats as newfound. I mean, they had 4 years to dive into this case. Some see it as them now seeing this case as a way to dig at the current president.
All right, so we got that. Now, we also see that it sounds like Bill Barr exonerated Trump in this entire conversation today, because the House Oversight Chair says that they're going to start turning over records related to the Epstein case on Friday. We'll not hold our breath on that one. This comes after the committee subpoenaed the Justice Department for the records and set a deadline of August 19th. Officials with the DOJ have informed us that they're going to begin dumping the records this Friday. Now, it also came today. Bill Barr was on the Hill for a deposition by the panel, the first of 10 high-profile witnesses who are coming in as a result of subpoenas. Many Republicans have called for more transparency, and Comer told reporters that he did not expect the DOJ to meet the deadline, but we're going to give him some more time. Now, Barr was the top person at the DOJ during Trump's first term, where Epstein died by suicide. Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell at New York Center. We know all about it. Now, Bill Barr did not speak to reporters as he arrived, and he later departed without comment. During a break, Comer told reporters that Bill Barr testified that Epstein died by suicide. There was no foul play. He said that there is a general consensus. There were blind spots in the cameras. It seemed like there was a lot of stuff that was there to potentially aid in a suicide. He also said Barr testified about Trump, saying the former AG said, quote, he never had conversations with President Trump pertaining to a client list, and he had never seen anything that would implicate President Trump in any of this. Democrats' goal is to try to dig up some type of dirt on Trump. And what Bill Barr testified to was that he never had conversations with Trump about any of this. Now, shortly after the death, Barr was appalled and angry to learn that Epstein was dead. And the OIG issued a scathing rebuke of the DOJ's handling of this. And of course, the whole case has been a disaster. So here's more from Comer, seemingly exonerating President Trump.
We're going to get the documents.
So have you had one more question? Your Democratic colleagues have said they want to hear from more people, such as Alex Acosta, who was attorney during the first prosecution. Jeffrey Epstein. Are you interested in expanding the list of who you're calling?
Yeah, we'll bring in everyone that we think can add information to the investigation. This is a serious investigation. This is a sincere investigation. I hope this will be a bipartisan investigation. I would encourage my Democrat colleagues not to politicize this. I think General Barr answered a lot of questions that probably burst their bubble with respect to he had never communicated with President Trump on a potential Epstein list or anything else. He had never seen anything that would implicate President Trump. I think this is another example the Democrats tried to create a false narrative, whether it be the Russia collusion hoax or there's no evidence that Joe Biden's family took any money from foreign governments or anything else. But I think this is the first witness of many more to come.
All right, so many more will come. And of course, we'll be looking forward to those. We also would like to see the full transcripts. Hopefully they release those. We are working closely with the DOJ to obtain all the records. He says, I think we're going to get the documents very soon. And here was a little bit of a longer clip. All the media companies just post short clips. Here's more.
Appreciate everybody being here today. We're very excited. This will be our first deposition in our bipartisan investigation into the entire Epstein Island saga. So we've got a lot of questions for former Attorney General Barr. I appreciate his willingness to come in and hopefully this will be the first of many. I'll answer your question.
You set a deadline for tomorrow for DOJ to release an unredacted full Epstein file. Do you expect them to deliver on that?
Well, we're having really good conversations. You have to understand you can imagine how many documents there are. I think that we're going to have I think we'll receive the documents very soon. They're compiling everything together. I think we're working together in a good faith effort, and everything's coming along. I expect to receive the documents very, very soon.
Is that their explanation, though, that there's just so many documents that they can't meet your deadline?
Well, we always get that explanation in every investigation we've done in the 2.5 years I've been here. But I think that I'm confident we're going to get the documents.
Are there other topics you're hoping to ask him about as well, or just Epstein and Maxwell?
Well, the subpoena was just for Epstein. There are some other things that I'm curious about, so we'll see how it goes. But obviously, the purpose of this deposition is on Epstein, and when we learn more, I'll be happy.
All right, so that's more from Comer, and that took place today. Now, elsewhere in the executive branch, we saw Ed Martin is out, and he's saying they're looking into the Epstein people. They're looking into the Obama coosters, and they're looking into people like Pencil Neck Adam Schiff and Tishy Lay Tish, because corruption from top to bottom is getting rooted out.
Doing at DOJ, and all we're doing across the government is saying, get the truth out, and then, by the way, let's hold people accountable, and that's exactly what's going on. So when Bill Pulte sends a criminal referral over to us, and he says Letitia James and Adam Schiff, and by the way, both their lawyers have come out and talked publicly about that criminal referral, so you can talk to them about the specifics, because I'm going to tell you what we're going to do is we're going to follow the facts. Every American that has a mortgage or has other documents they sign has to follow the law. We're going to go to the very bottom of the facts, and if somebody did something wrong, we're not only going to hold them accountable, we're also going to look at everything else that they've been doing, because when you're a liar, you lie not just on one thing. When you're a cheater, you cheat not just on one thing. When you're doing corruption, you generally don't just do it on one thing. So that's our what we're asked to do as prosecutors, and that's what we're doing. Well, doing it.
That's one from Ed. He had another one saying they're digging into this.
Tell you we're investigating me.
Real quick, what about the January 6th committee? Did they destroy evidence? Is there criminality there?
Of course. Of course, we're all in that too, and trust me, a lot of people did not get a pardon that were involved in the select committee, and they ought to be keeping an eye on their mailbox, because there's a lot to be asked about.
And the pardons that were given out were done by an auto pen. Are they legitimate?
Well, I'm the pardon attorney, so I'm in that too. I can tell you we're investigating how the pardons were granted. It was not like anything in the history of America what not Joe Biden, his staffers did, not just with the auto pen, but with faking him out on the memos. More to come, Maria. I'm telling you, Pam Bondi has let us loose, and when this comes out, it'll take the whole of these people's hoaxes down, and we're doing it bit by bit, and it's fantastic. It's a great privilege.
Unbelievable.
All right, so good stuff coming out, and we know that the J6 committee was filled with criminals all trying to set up and ensnare their political opponents. Here is what the GOP House Judiciary Committee also posted. They said, thanks to Kash Patel and a lot of this work, we now have over 500 pages of documents that have now dropped. And I want to just share with you briefly what they are, because they're massive. This one's 301 pages. You can see it is a redacted binder that looks like this was prepared April 9th, 2025. So not that long ago. And we got various tabs. All right. So tab 2, here is the background. And this is just a 2017 report. And I'm wondering if there's a table of contents or something that maybe they would provide to us. But you can see it's telling us a lot. It looks like it's an interview summary report in FD 302 saying on Monday, September 18, 2017, Christopher Steele, remember him? The Steele dossier, Orbis Business Intelligence, was interviewed by the Grosvenor Hotel in England by FBI Special Agent this person, and FBI Brian J. Otten. We know his name. The following information was provided by Steele over the course of a 2-day interview. 45 to 60 minutes, Steele departed. And that's the whole, background on what went down. So it's 301 pages of that. And let's see, it's not 1302 continuation. Yeah, okay. So as you keep scrolling down, very, very large document, lots of records in there. So it will take some time to parse through those. They also dropped this. This was another FD 1057. This was requesting to open up an investigation into the media leaks. We've talked a lot about this already, the Arctic haze stuff. So it's 266 pages, and we did a full segment on this story. So it sounds like it's probably just more of the materials that are connected to it that we've already looked at, just the rest of the file. And goodness, right? There's a lot of corruption to parse through. And then lastly was this document in tab 4, the McCabe text messages, all now dropped. And again, I'm not sure what of this has already been released, but here we got Lisa Page and Andy McCabe. Hey, I have a couple of thoughts on our potential leak issue. Can we, tonight or tomorrow? Maybe before 10 if there's time. Sure, grab me in the morning. Roger. Hey, Andy, it's Josh Margolin at ABC. Thanks for your help on Saturday. Sorry to disrupt your vacation. Hope it was good. Are you in D.C. Thursday? I have something very interesting and delicate I'd like to discuss with you. Plus, I'd like to finally meet you in person. Lunch or dinner or whatever is on me. Wow. Who's that's going to? Andy McCabe from Josh Margolin at ABC. Huh. Yeah, I'm around next week. As you can imagine, I normally rely on Mike to handle this up. I can reach out to him tomorrow. Sure, I was just trying to keep this informal and off the record. And John Cohen said I should make it my business to get to know you. He's like, wow, that's so nice. So all their text messages, was he leaking to the media? Andy McCabe? Like, this is the question. So all these documents are out, and we're very happy to see some transparency from the FBI. Byron Donalds was out talking about it, saying, release even more documents. Byron says, the Steele dossier was a false narrative, paid for by Hillary Clinton, and Gary Gensler facilitated the transfer of this whole thing. Here's a fact. Obama, Biden, and Hillary were so desperate to stop Trump that they used his phony information to weaponize the intel community against him. This resulted in years of politicized investigations, bureaucratic subversion, and overt lawfare. The legacy media went along with their lies, whipped up a panic, created destructive division, and many Americans still believe these lies to this day. We want the rest of the records. Here is Byron Donalds.
Is the Oversight Committee working on releasing documents mentioned in the Durham Annex?
Yeah, that's stuff that we're going to be getting to when we get back. Somewhat similar to the subpoenas we issued for the Epstein files that happened about a week and a half ago. So, look, I think this is where we need to go. When it comes to the Durham Annex, we need that information to be public. What is crystal clear is that Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign financed, obviously, the Steele dossier, but behind the scenes was using the elements of our government, our intelligence community. I also believe the FISA court system to not just spy on the campaign of then candidate Donald Trump, but to undermine the presidency of Donald Trump simply because she lost and could not be president. And so this is stuff that we need to release to the American people. We need to get to the bottom of that immediately.
All right, so we'll see what ultimately comes. Bill Barr was there today getting deposed. We'll have more other depositions scheduled for this week. And of course, we'll be keeping our eye on them. Hopefully, they can turn around some transcripts and get those released quickly. But also good news, lots of investigations, lots of different avenues are currently in process, and we'll keep our eye on them all. All right, my friends, what a beautiful day it has been. Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us. If you're just getting here, quick recap on what we talked about. First segment was Zelensky suit. Ooh, looking pretty good. Not, maybe not exactly a suit, but close enough. All right, we'll compromise. We'll make concessions, okay? Because we're, in the interest of peace. So he came out, no real tie on it, but a nice jacket. And Trump even blown away. Well, you look amazing. You look fabulous. Media talked about it today. We had some serious business here. We had clips of the conversations, and it sounds like it's the start of the end of a deadlock, which is always positive. So a little aftermath conversation, a little hot mic moment as well. And all that in the first segment. Then we talked about this Israeli flag case and this ruling from Judge Trevor McFadden, which is a very curious one. It's basically invoking an old slave rule saying that the Jewish flag is a Jewish flag. It's not an Israeli flag. And I wonder if they'll extend that, like if this will be extended to other flags. Like, will all other flags be correlated to the race of the people who stand behind that flag, or is it only the Jewish people? I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. Like, would this judge also say if the situation were reversed and the parties were reversed, would they say that the Palestinian flag was evidence of a racial attack from a Jewish person or anybody else? Just pick anybody else. Pick some, liberal person, maybe not a Jew. Okay. Pick some Christian person who attacks some Palestinian person, right? I don't know. Would they do that? Or is this like a good standard for the whole world? Or is this just something that is a special carve out? We'll, of course, keep our eye on it. We also had this guy, Tom Alexandrovich, who has fled the country. We'll see if he comes back. But the State Department is saying, we had nothing to do with it. So don't get mad at us. And Lindsey Graham says, if you don't support Israel, God will smite you and you will die 1,000 deaths in the seventh circle of hell, because Israel's better than you. So eat it, from Lindsey Graham. I think that's what he said, almost verbatim. Carly Bonney, clip this one for us. Bill Barr was testifying in Congress today at a deposition. I'm sure there'll be many more of them coming down. Comer with some reaction. House Oversight dropping some docs. Byron Donalds laying down the truth. And now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. I hope that your week is off to an incredible start and you're accomplishing all of the things you set your mind to. We got a couple of comments that came in today. And thank you, Donut. And thank you, John, for clipping for us. And Carrie B and KB clipping for us this morning. Amazing. Happy Monday, my friends. Have a great day in the house. Good to see you. Happy Monday, my friends. Bucky's His Rome is here. Says, the Democrats are trying to get Kristi Noem kicked out of military housing after she moved there, because the media and Democrats doxed her and her family because she wasn't paying for it, with Representative Stinky leading the charge. So I asked Grok how much the taxpayers pay for this security. And yeah, Bucky's is Rome. It's a great comment. And I think we saw that she's entitled to that, right? I think somebody else reported on that. No, she's entitled as part of her stipend. It's all just kind of blown out of proportion. And we remember, Lieutenant Michael Byrd, okay, he was the guy who shot Ashley Babbitt. They gave him like a ton of money, a ton of benefits, private housing, all the things. Yeah, Pelosi's staff pushed for unusual aid for him. They viewed him as a defender of democracy, unlike their criticism of Noem, which, of course, they will launch into. Rob, don't know if you're tracking this one, but a judge just shut down the Media Matters lawsuit brought by Elon. Yeah, I saw that. I had a couple ways we could have gone today. I was maybe going to go with that way or this flag case. So it's an interesting one. Also out of DC, Media Matters versus the FTC. Finding the investigation violates the First Amendment. This isn't just immunity. Yeah, from James Burnham. What's up, James Burnham? Thank you for that. Says, but the media judge says any investigation into Media Matters is a violation of their First Amendment rights. Will Republicans ever punish these judges? Answer, no. No. Well, I mean, why would they? Are they in charge of the houses? Oh, they are. Do they run the Judiciary Committee? Oh, yeah, they do. Will they ever impeach anybody? No. If somebody ran for Congress on the sole promise of just impeaching the judges, yeah, we're just going to start impeaching all of them. That's like my mission. Okay, like Ted Cruz said, he's going to go be the strongest defender of Israel. What if you said, I'm going to be the strongest the defender of like the American judiciary, and I'm going to lead impeachments against rogue judges? Where's that in our conversation? Lil Mandy, what's up, Lil Mandy in the house, 2709. Welcome aboard. Thank you for becoming a supporter and a membo. SD Gold Star Mom, what's up? 19 months as a membo. Thank you, SD Gold Star. Look at that, coming up on 2 full terms. Says, slicing 2 boxes of peaches while listening. Man, you're like intertwined with Mother Nature out there. Good to see you, SD Gold Star Mom. Says, listening and smiles. Good to see you, SD Gold Star Mom. Hey, Mock Schnell is here. What's up, Mock Schnell? You know, Rob Zelensky, in that cut this morning before you logged out, looked like an older you. Same style shirt. And if you did not use the hair products, would be much like his hairstyle. LOL. Yeah, well, you notice I don't wear a lot of the green shirts anymore. It's because you guys kept calling me Zelensky all the time. Every time I wear a green shirt, like, oh, look, who's here? Vladimir Zelensky? You're like, oh, gosh. I'm just kidding. Green's not a really good color for me. It doesn't really bring out the color of my eyes. But it's true. It's true. I was noticing that this morning. I was like, man, I'm kind of wearing the Zelenskyy this morning on the member stream. I was in a black outfit. And I think that clip that we played this morning of him in a black t-shirt was not from today, actually. And that was like reposted by a bunch of big accounts. It was not from him from today. So I'm not sure that he was wearing a t-shirt this morning. I don't think that's confirmed. Wow, Shika. What's up? Wow, Shika. Becoming a membo. Thank you for becoming a membo, Wow, Shika. Grab the members only stream from this morning and we'll see you in the after party. NTX Nancy says, no one talks about how the Obama administration CIA couped the Ukrainian government. No, I know. I forgot about that little history lesson there. And, you know, now they're saying it's like this ancient historic country and all that. Anyways, it's just like, okay. Thank you, NTX Nancy, for being here. 1/3 of the way to a full baby. Ravicus says there was a good Frenchman once. It must be one of these fellas. I'm not sure exactly who is French in there. Maybe this guy right here. Yeah, he's the French one probably. NTX Nancy says assault is a crime. That should be enough. That should be charge enough. Yeah, she got arrested. She got charged. She was acquitted. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, she was charged. In other words, there are laws for these things. Okay, like there are laws. We don't have to reinvent the First Amendment and pervert our civil rights laws to shove new people in there. Former LEO, I've been around a while and now I am confused. If someone, a law enforcement officer, is subpoenaed to testify, how can that subpoena be ignored? I understand. I mean, it really can't, right? Unless you've got justification for it, unless there's, you know, immunity or you file a motion to quash the subpoena and you've got some basis for it. But it's a judicial order. I understand that there must have been many closed-door discussions. If the LEO testimony was unfavorable to the prosecution, the defense would and should immediately have had the LEO subpoenaed to testify for the defense and vice versa for the prosecution to subpoena the LEO. Hopefully, Rob, you can break this down using single syllables for me. Well, I think what we were able to disambiguate in our show today is that he didn't appear for the civil case. And he's saying, I've got immunity against that. Okay. In the criminal trial, he was subpoenaed by his prosecutor, I'm sure, you know, or got a request, not a subpoena, right? Can you show up? Yes. Okay. And maybe issue a subpoena. But he was a voluntary compliant witness, right? He's going to come to court and testify because the prosecutor's asking him to do that. And he's there for that. But the civil case, which she sued in federal court, to use this like slave law to say that the Israeli flag is for Jews now, like all of that was in an entirely different claim, and he's got, you know, immunity as a state officer against being compelled to testify in a federal case is how they broke that down. Bucky's is Rome. I'm frustrated. Carter Page must be ready to go full postal. Republicans are making a mockery of their voters, the judicial system. Yeah, FISA abuse victim Carter Page tells me he's growing frustrated with the Russiagate probe. Sad fact is, DOJ still hasn't done anything, from Paul Sperry. Off-label podcast, what's up? South Park says, what's a but for? Still gets me. What's a but for? Like a but for cause from South Park. Off-label pod, 1 year as a membo. Hey, Bonnie says, I don't know, but if I hung a Jewish flag on my flagpole, everyone here would think I'm Jewish. Big difference than hanging a Ukraine flag. Are the Ukrainians a race? It's like, why wouldn't, like, you might think that that's the public reflection, but I'm sure Ukrainians would say, I'm Ukrainian. Like, like my ethnicity, my race, I'm Ukrainian. Or like the Somalians. Like we see the Somalian flag, we go, oh yeah, those are definitely Somalians. So is that a race? Can they say that their Somalian flag is connected to their race? I think when I see like that new Minnesota flag, I think the whole thing is Somalia. So is that protected, right? If somebody is upset about the Somalian flag, the Minnesota flag, which looks like Somalia, would that be a racial extension? My question is, if this is a principle that applies to them, does it apply to everybody else? And when I see a Palestinian flag, when I think of somebody wearing a Palestinian flag, I absolutely think the same thing. Wow, they must be Palestinian. Well, I agree with you, Bonnie. I think when I do see a Jewish flag, yeah, they're probably Jewish. They're probably Israeli, or they're probably like Ted Cruz or Lindsey Graham or something. But I would agree with that. I'm just asking, does it also apply like for the Palestinian flags? Because I'm pretty sure they would say that they're a race and that they're being discriminated against. Run Mead, we approach the need to distinguish between freedom and freedom from religion. At what point do religious laws and practices impose on the rights of non-believers? Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the idea is we want kind of even standards across the board. Like we don't want special carve-outs for special people who say, well, my civil rights are being attacked now because I'm a transgender, right? And Amy Coney Barrett was like, that's ridiculous. Like, get out of here. You're not a suspect class. You're not a quasi-suspect class. Get out of here, okay? It's well-defined in our law. You don't get to come in here and shoehorn in your little unique claims because you feel like you're being oppressed for some reason, okay? Our Constitution is what it says it is. And so, when you start to try to, mishmash things, and I know a lot of people probably here don't agree with me on this issue at all and are, on the other side of this, but it's about holding the standard. And if it's going to be a carve out for the Israeli flag and because of their claims of whatever, then other people should be able to do that too. And what about America? Like when I have an American flag, I think that we're an American, America. Are we not a race of Americans? How do you define those things? Lindsay, what's up? Rick D says, why does Lindsey Graham always remind me of this character? I'm not sure who that character is. Is that a Monty Python character? Doesn't look like it, but I don't know. But he is not somebody that I like. But BI Form, what's up, says Graham, how dare a politician come in and lecture us about, and I've never even said the word genocide here or claimed that at all, but to say that, I'm sick of my party talking about this and shut up or God will smite you. Whoa, bro. Whoa. Don't, all that's going to do is cause people to just say, actually, Lindsay, how about not, right? And so I think it's going to have the opposite effect. But Jonah Finn, what's up? Graham, Byform. Graham, another terrible Trump choice. Graham is just, yeah, he needs to get a deep tissue massage, says this old guy. He's way too uptight. He's never met a war he didn't support. Exactly. And he just gets up there with a bunch of platitudes and is even logically inconsistent. Like, they're going to get killed any minute. They need us. But they could commit genocide if they wanted to, and they're not. It's like, all right. Jonah Finn, 5 months as a member. This judge needs to be added to the impeachment list for this flag racial discrimination ruling. We'll see where it goes. We'll see how it extends. Or if it applies to anyone else, the Palestinians or anyone. Bucky's is Rome says, I guess he didn't like the questions last time. Breaking 911 says Zelensky has declined to join Brett Baer for a scheduled interview and is going home. That's fine, man. Honestly, that's fine. Like the mainstream media on this, they're just all, part of the problem, honestly. Like just let Trump and these people just talk it out. Stop it with the rest of the mainstream. Hey, what's up? Dapper Dave in the house. A sincere investigation on Epstein would be to get all the financial records on Epstein, Maxwell, and Les Wexner. Yeah, and the financial crimes were never even apparently looked into. What was the one that we just saw? Oh, LaToya Cantrell from New Orleans. Remember that indictment, how extensive that was into all her records, like 15,000 text messages, like $700 for this, $600 for that, all of it, right? All delineated out. The FBI knows how to do it. They just don't want to do it with the Maxwell Epstein stuff. Ravicus in the house. What's up? Rob never watched Hogan's Heroes. It's true. It's true. I never did. The little guy was a Frenchman called Frenchie, who was in a prison camp in Germany with others from the U.S. Army. So that was the French guy, I thought. That's what I thought. Yeah, what's going on? Uncle Bozy says, come on, Rob, you seriously think all the pro-Palestinian protesters with blue and pink hair on college campuses are actual Palestinians? Seriously? Well, maybe not them, but some. And I would imagine that some people with Israeli flags are not Jewish too, right? Like there's probably some Palestinians with Palestinian flags who think that the Palestinian flag is representative of their race and their ethnicity and their national origin. Some of them not. Some of them are absolutely, you're right, not applicable. But I also think it's the same on the other side. Like there are some Jewish people with Israeli flags who you would look at and say, oh, yeah, they're Jewish and, probably Jewish because the flag is good indicia of that, right? And I think you can look at indicia and come to your different conclusions on it. But my question is, what about the Palestinians that do think that they've got the same type of claim that the Jews do? Do they get those same privileges? I don't know if they'll be filing lawsuits to make those claims or waiting for the right, situation where something like this happens. Anybody, I guess, pulling on a Palestinian flag, anybody, doesn't matter who it is, you can now make the argument it's a racially motivated attack, right? Or is that only for the Jews, is my point. So, and I'm sure there are some people who are waving Israeli flags who are not Jewish at all either. So what are they waving the flag for? Because of a love of their non-existent Jewishness, or because it's on behalf of another country whom they support for whatever reason? So that's my point. It's a great question, but no, I agree with you. I think that probably a lot of them are not actual Palestinians. Rick D, what's up? Can you say no, new grandpa to be? Man, Rick D in the house. Look at that handsome or beautiful child in there. Look at you, Rick. Congratulations to you, my man. Glad to see you have a new baby in the house. A new grandbaby coming in soon. Rick D. Rick D sent that in after jumping out of an airplane for the 5,000th time. My friends, what a great day it has been. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for duking it out on the flag stuff with us. We appreciate that. Of course, we know those are spicy meatballs, but we got to talk about it. All right, so now let's see what's going in and happening over on X on the day and see who is joining us. If we got any comments over here. The Freckled American says, this is interesting, says the Star of David was used in the flag of Morocco from 1795 to 1915 as well. Is that right? Well, that's interesting. French Morocco, looks like right there. Yeah, and then they changed it to the current flag. Yeah, well, I guess they're not using it anymore. So I guess it's not an extension of their race anymore, I guess, according to Judge McFadden. But that's a good one. Thank you for that. All right, so my friends, we will leave it there on the day. We're going over to an after party, members only. Come join us if you'd like to. If you're a YouTube member, I will drop the link to the next stream in the chat so you can click it over and come and join us. We also, locals friends, just hang tight because we'll just hit the reboot button and see you back over there. Otherwise, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. John, Donut Mind Me, Carrie BKB, Neuro D, Dog Digger, Janek in the house. We've also got Jigam, Just Rhonda, and Elliot modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly in the house on the day. And Uncle Bozy sharing this one. I fly an Israel flag under my American flag in support of Israel, and I've done so since 10/7. So I guess the next obvious follow-up question, Uncle Bozy, would be, are you Jewish? Because you might be an example of a Jewish person who is, of a non-Jewish person who's waving a flag. So what happens if you were wearing an Israeli flag and you got yanked in your neck? Is that racially discriminatory if you're not a Jewish person? So many complicated rules. It's kind of why we don't do this crap. It's kind of the point. So it's very complicated because then everybody starts killing each other over who's got more rights to the flags and all this stuff. Hey, Boopsy says, Trump was so delighted to see the little boy wearing a suit. Trump is so warm and loving. He was excited. You could see it in his face. Do you think Trump supposes himself to be a mentor, helping to make Zelensky a better person like he did with Michael Cohen? Smiley. I don't mean to make fun of Trump, but he has a history of helping people become the best they can be, and sometimes it's worked. From Boopsy. Yeah, from Boopsy. So I agree. I think you could see a little spark in his eye. Wow, we're coming around. Trump wants to see progress, I think. He's a builder. He wants to build things. So if you can build, kind of a petulant whiner into somebody who's like, a stand-up dude, then there you go. It's working. We're making progress. And I also think Trump is probably just a ton of fun, very jokey. Everybody says that. Hilarious and charming. And, there's a charm to him. Zelensky's laughing his butt off. Zelensky was even laughing. He's like, I know, it looks good. So, I mean, that's honestly what you want. Like, I'd like to see that with all world leaders. Could you imagine? Trump goes over there. He's making Putin laugh. Putin was doing his little, like leg bob, kind of, shucking and jiving, bopping around, and he was having fun with him, shaking hands. And we want more of that, less of bombing each other. Ray K. Hey, happy day to you and fellow watchers. Ray K, 42 months as a member. My goodness. My goodness. Yeah, Ray K, 972, 42 months as a member. Happy day to you and fellow watchers. Same to you, Ray K. And Uncle Bozy. See, Uncle Bozy, I am not Jewish. Okay, so there you go. Perfect example of who I'm talking about. If Uncle Bozy is wearing an Israeli flag because he supports Israel, which you're free to do, and you got yanked on the back of the neck, that would just be simple assault for you, right? Not an attack on the Jewish race because you're not a Jewish race person, I guess. That's the test. That's the new legal test. So if you're a Palestinian person and you have a flag yanked on you, you can also make the same claim. But if you're not, if you're one of the blue-haired freakazoids on the college campuses, you're not, so you don't get the same protection. So it's only if you're authentically in alignment with your flag, I guess. Rub some dirt on it. Hey, if someone is wearing a Brazilian flag, does he know jiu-jitsu? Well, I tried that once and it didn't do anything for me. I thought I'd be like Neo and be like, I know jiu-jitsu. He says kung fu, but I know jiu-jitsu. It didn't work out, so I just went in and got choked out anyways. But thank you, rub some dirt on it. No, I don't know. I don't know. Like, yeah, what about like Brazilians? Just pick any other flag, pick any other race. That's the question. Like, is it an equal standard? And you might have a lot of sympathy for Israel and the Jewish people after 10/7 and say, I want to support them and all those things. But we always have to question special carve-outs in the middle of emergencies, in the middle of these societal waves. Oh, we have to make all these changes to our entire society or else. No, okay, that's the point of our Constitution. That's the point of the system. We don't want rapid changes that manipulate the rules for any, one unique entity, because there's always some other crisis that needs some sort of change to our Constitution. And the fact is, we want it not to change. We want it to stay the same unless it goes through a very rigid process of amendments and filing challenge-proof lawsuits that, adjust the First Amendment into a different interpretation of it is offensive to me. Diane K. Lacey, how do they equate the Israeli flag exclusively with Jews when around 27% of the 10 million Israelis are non-Jewish? Wow! That's another great point, right? What about Israelis who are not Jewish? Like if you're an Israeli citizen, but you're not Jewish, and you wore a flag and you got yanked. Now, see what I'm saying? Now we get all these different variables. It becomes very confusing. And so now we have to ask ourselves, kind of go through that whole thing, which is the point of not having that included in it. Get it? So yeah, it's a great point, Diane K. Lacey. So there's other permutations of this, right? You could have a non-Jewish person wearing an Israeli flag. You could have who's like a U.S. citizen. You could have an Israeli-born citizen who is not a practicing Jew who happens to be wearing a flag. Is that racial discrimination against him? He's not even Jewish in religious practice, but ethnically, maybe he is. So, but is that racial discrimination against the Jewish people if he's not, invoking that identity? I don't know. Very complicated, but the courts are a great place to figure all this stuff out. So we're glad they're on it. Hey, rub some dirt on it. What's up, Mama G update? So she was going, thank you for asking, rub some dirt on it. So my mom in surgery today. Let me see, any updates? For some knee stuff. So, that's good. It's knee stuff. Nothing like a brain or a lung. She already had her lung taken care of. But so she was heading into surgery at 11:30 and haven't heard back yet. So hopefully we get a good update tonight on that. Rub some dirt on it. I was just checking to see if we got any updates, but nothing yet. So probably out of it, probably recovering right now. And my first order of business after we're done here is to give her a call. So thanks for asking about it. Rub some dirt on it. You're the man. We appreciate you asking about it. And thanks for the prayers up for Mama G, because she is really trying to get through this knee situation and she's working hard on it. All right. And so my friends, we are going to head over to our members only after party. We'd love to have you come and join us. If you're a membo, you can join us on YouTube. I'll send in a new link. Come say hello. If you're on locals, just hang tight. Of course, we'll be there in just a quick second. But once again, thanks to our amazing mods and meme smiths who mod the fort down for us. Thanks for sending in these amazing donos and super chats and supporting our work here. I appreciate it. Thanks for navigating with us as we go through some of the spicier stories on the day. We appreciate your understanding that we're all trying to figure it out together. So thanks for being here and being understanding and gracious. We'll, of course, be back here to figure out whatever the next meatball is tomorrow. And we'll pause here for the evening as we get some rest tonight. But until we come back tomorrow, my friends, I want to wish you a beautiful day. Of course, when we do come back here, it's going to be at the same time, same place. And in order to do it appropriately, see this real good boy over here? Oh, there he is. Look at those eyeballs. Oh, hello, Axel. He's just poking up. Say hi. Where are you at? Over here? Okay. All right. So you can see the tail wagging. All right. So we're going to pause here, my friends. We're going to be back in the morning for our members only stream, but we're also going to be back here. Same place, same time. We're going to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers, shining the light. Watching the watchers, defending what's right. Watching the watchers, stay each night together and live